Thank you, members. I'll go straight into our board goals. Can I have the first slide, please? Okay. So our board goals for the year 2025 to 2026 are directly aligned to the HIS Strategic Plan 2025 to 2028, and they represent specific measurable outcomes the board aims to deliver by June 2026. And all our four goals are SMART. All of them are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So the first goal that we have this year is the director search goal. As all of you may know, Greg will be leaving the school after the end of school year 2026 to 2027. So we are planning to identify top 3 candidates for the director role beginning in the 2027 to 2028 school year. I think we all know that this is one of the most important things that the board does. This is one of the most important responsibilities for a board. That's leadership succession. So as Greg leaves, we are assisted with trying to look for a new director. So already we have come up with a director search committee that's already constituted by about 3 members of the board, and look out for invitations to join the search committee. We'll be appealing to all different parts of our community to join the director search committee. So this process, we're doing it to ensure that we have a strong and stable leadership transition so that we maintain the momentum of the school and support the long-term vision and culture of HIS. So that's the director search goal. Our second goal is the value proposition in finance. Is that the one? It's the value proposition in finance. We want to define the value proposition that HIS proffers to the community. That is, in other words, we want to find out what the community of HIS values most, what uniquely sets HIS apart. And the committee that's going to do that is the finance committee. So we will review and identify the cost structures and operational models that support this value. It positions HIS for long-term resilience in a challenging and competitive educational environment. So like I said, this is going to be led by the Finance Committee, and this directly contributes to the Strategic Plan Accelerator on Sustainable Financial Practices, which is Accelerator number 3. Our fourth goal is the facilities and cost efficiency. Our third goal is the facilities and cost efficiency. This looks closely at facilities and operational efficiency. The Facilities Committee will review our current facilities operations and identify opportunities to reduce operations and identify opportunities to reduce operating costs while keeping in mind our commitment to quality learning environments. This committee has already been formed at board level, and like the Director Search Committee as well, we will be reaching out to members of the community to join this committee. We'll be reaching out to people with the relevant skills and expertise in this area. So this supports the strategic accelerator focused on preparing our campus for the future, ensuring that our infrastructure remains efficient, sustainable, and aligned with the needs of a modern learning community. And our last goal is board succession planning. This is a governance-focused goal. We will be developing a board succession plan for the 2026-2027 school year that reflects the diversity and composition of the HIS community. This includes ensuring a balance of skills, experience, and voices that mirror the community we serve. I also want to highlight that the board is always looking out for volunteers. So if you feel you are called to serve, or if you have skills and experience that can benefit the school, we truly welcome that engagement. This work strengthens our commitment to transparent and collaborative communication. So those are our 4 goals that we have for this year. So in closing, each of the goals that I've presented today supports the multi-year strategic accelerators that guide HIS forward. They focus on leadership, financial resilience, operational efficiency, and strong governance. Our commitment as a board is to steward the long-term sustainability and excellence of HIS. We look forward to delivering these outcomes by June 2026, and working closely with the community to ensure HIS remains a future-ready, world-class school. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
So tonight we'll discuss our audited financial results from school year 2024-2025. Then we'll go over the current financial health of the school, and then we'll end with our priorities for the second half of the year. Next slide. Grant Thornton conducted the external audit from last year. They issued a clean, unqualified opinion. The financial statements fairly present the school's position in all material respects. Our total income closed at $9.65 million, slightly below both budget and the prior year. Expenses, however, increased to $10.3 million, resulting in a deficit of $657,000, which compares to a surplus of the previous year of $248,000. In summary, our revenues are holding steady, but cost growth, particularly staff-related, has outpaced them. The majority of our income continued to come from grants and aid. That's our tuition fees and levies at $9.6 million. This was slightly below both the budget of $10.2 and the prior year of $9.9. Other income came in at $52,000, well below the $181,000 budget, mainly due to underperformance in the ancillary income streams, as we did not receive the GRASP grant that was budgeted for. So overall, our income is very stable, but we do need to explore ways to diversify our income streams. So our costs last year stayed flat from the prior year overall, with the exception you can see of our staffing costs. Staff costs were $6.7 million, which reflects the cost of living adjustments, teachers moving up their ladder, and strategic retention measures. Academic expenses are supporting the quality of learning and program delivery, so it was mainly driven by a substantial replenishment of library resources and online learning materials. Maintenance costs were $867,000. Here, we are being deliberately controlled. We are looking at efficiencies and focusing on essential upkeep. Administrative expenses were $1.1 million, flat from the prior year and below budget. Our total assets are valued at $13.9 million, with the majority being property and equipment. Cash reserves closed at $920,000, down from $1.19 million the prior year, while receivables remain steady. Funds and reserves stand at $12.6 million, providing a strong long-term base, but liquidity has tightened. All prior control issues from the previous audit have been addressed. We've improved reconciliation. We've done the data migration to Sage Intact, and the asset management now is integrated into the new system. Our statutory payments are up to date, and controls around disposed assets are being strengthened. So this year we have 364 students versus 382 last year, and we have 308 paying students versus 349 last year. And we are estimating a net increase in our paying student base in January. So we made the decision to keep tuition flat this year. The prior year, there was a 1.5% increase in tuition fees against a 7% increase in costs. Year over year, revenue is down from $4.5 million to $4.3 million, so about 3%. Expenses year over year are projected to grow 6%. So this year we expect a deficit of approximately $1.2 million, which will be funded from our reserves. Financially, we have a strong balance sheet. We have no debt burden or material liabilities. Our reserves remain above the 25% policy threshold, providing healthy coverage for operating expenses and contingencies. and we continue to focus on prudent cash flow management and timely collections. In line with the strategic priorities, we set aside resources for some capital investments, including computers, PAC upgrades, the elementary playground, pavers, sports equipment, and refurbishing the coffee hub. It's worth noting here that we have significantly reduced our generator use this school year with these PAC upgrades. So where are we going? Our priorities in the second half of the school year are going to be focused on growing enrollment and retention through both parent engagement and marketing. We're going to continue to tighten financial discipline, ensuring our spending aligns with actual revenues and value for money. We're going to complete key capital projects while preserving liquidity. We are reviewing our compensation and reward structures to be both competitive and sustainable. We'll enhance our governance and internal controls across finance and operations, and we'll continue to foster community engagement and student well-being to support the school's strategic pillars.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for your attendance online and especially your attendance here in person. It's always wonderful to have you here as our community engagement. We will start with our mission. We are a boldly diverse learning community. We inspire curiosity, we embrace challenge, and we nurture personal growth. And I can't reiterate that enough, that your children live that mission each and every day. And it's something that we ensure happens in the classroom as part of our lens and their learning throughout the course of their time with us. My agenda tonight is that I will be addressing the end of last year's parent or community survey results, and I'm going to be speaking specifically to the concerns parents expressed around the term challenge in our mission. Secondly, I'll talk a little bit about another set of surveys that I've conducted as a part of parent conversations we've had related to 3 elements of technology use here at school: phone use, screen time, and the use of AI. I'll only speak tonight about phone use because we're really midway through that particular research effort. And then we'll talk a little bit about our strategic plan and our strategic directions and how they interrelate with this year's CIS, IB, and Middle States Association triple accreditation. And last, we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that have been happening behind the scenes that are changing and transforming fundamentally the way we operate here at school. Next slide. Next slide. So I'm going to start with a little bit of that survey. Now, this survey was filled out by our community in June of last year, and it's an annual survey. Over the winter, summer, I spend time trying to consolidate that, and then we bring that back to the faculty and the administration, and we respond to that data. So the things that we're talking about now, I already have goals set in motion. There were 53 responses. That's down a little bit from previous years, where we typically receive around 70 to 80 responses. We succeed through diversity, nurturing personal growth, and inspiring curiosity, and we challenge rigor. These were all of the questions that we were asking, and of that, we had some concerns regarding math in the elementary, as well as regarding achievement in our middle years program. Next slide. Continued. Athletics and activities is strong, and there's always room for improvement, and especially better communication and being as anticipatory and proactive as possible. I will say this, for a school our size, we offer an incredible array of both sports and activities after school. So it's often times where there's many, many things going on all at once, and it's easy for things to slip, but that's quite the exception and not the rule. So there's always opportunities for improvement. Our arts are doing really well. We are beginning to grow our theatrical arts program, and we continue to expand our music offerings here at school. Next slide. So those who answered the survey, primarily our elementary parents, and this is actually very normal, and it's pretty consistent year on year. We had about 38 from elementary, 27 from middle, and about 8 parents in our diploma program. Next slide. The question was, I believe that HIS provides high-quality, a balanced academic program, and as you can see, most strongly agree. And then as the students progress, there's always a little disaggregation of some of that. But in general, our results are strong. Now, what I'm going to do, I've been here long enough to be able to provide some longitudinal data, and I'm going to go back from the year before, and then I'll provide both the 24 results as well as the 25 results. For me, this is, as a director, this provides a compelling rationale for diving deep into this particular persistent question. And so, which parts of the mission resonate with you most, and what is most crucial for your student or your children? 78% said nurturing personal growth, with fewer on the other elements of our mission. 2025, again, that dropped a little bit, but they also parents started to increase their impression of embraces challenge. Let's go to another question. There's summary comments from our question about what part of the mission makes the most sense, and that we actually live the mission, that we celebrate our diversity and inclusion, evidence from last week's International Day. And we have academic challenge in the PYP as well as in our middle years program. And so from that basic first question, we resolved these summaries. Let's move on. What part of the mission statement do you think HIS does best? And parents responded that we are very diverse, that 30% said we inspire curiosity, and 35% said that we nurture personal growth, and in 2024, only 20% said that we sufficiently embrace challenge. In 2025, next slide, the same challenge is there, but this time only 20% said we don't sufficiently embrace challenge. We asked the question in a different way. In 2024, we said, what needs further improvement? And resoundingly, 51% said that we have to embrace challenge. We need to improve in the manner in which our students are challenged. 2025, 77%. So next slide. And you can see that we're doing some things really well, but this question of challenge is something that we have needed to address extensively. What have we learned from those questions? Well, specifically from parents' comments, mathematics and subject-specific instruction quality, there are significant concerns and weak math teaching across multiple grade levels, and I wouldn't necessarily say teaching, but just seeking improved learning, and that there's inconsistent instructional quality in certain subjects. Preparation for external exams and academic rigor. We offer DP exams, and we also offer the e-assessments and MYP. And so further alignment needs to be managed in terms of ensuring that our students are sufficiently prepared. And then a balance of digital and traditional learning approaches. There's an ongoing concern about the manner in which we handle digital learning here at school. It's changing for us rapidly, and I think we're all participant in this radical ranges of changes that we experience with technology in both our personal lives, but also in our learning. So this led us to conversations with parents about these concerns, and so about 2 months ago, I projected 3 separate short surveys to parents, and what I'd like to do is extend the conversation about this digital element, and I want to share mostly the complexity around this and our next steps in how we're going to handle this. Next step, and so we'll be moving on to that in a moment. What are the actions that we've taken to embrace challenge? So when we came back from our holiday and in August, the faculty spent time looking at the data that you provided and then setting actions in place so that as they progress through the year, they're embracing challenge. So we took direct action on the basis of the comments that you've made. What are those actions? Each division and teacher has a school-wide goal of learning and a learning goal dedicated to improving their approach to challenge and respectively. Metrics include MAP, MYP scores, and DP scores. So we'll be looking at that data to inform the success of the teachers and our students related to challenge. CIS and the strategic plan are aligned to create a standards-based curriculum. Divisions and teachers are required to have a curriculum goal, and teachers have been trained on preparing their lesson plans to identify standards to be learned and the assessments that are linked to those standards to be used as part of their lessons. And so what we're doing is creating or being able to answer 3 questions. The first question is, what did the students learn? That's the curriculum, the standards. How do you know? Well, I assessed it this way, or it's being assessed this way. And the last question is, was that enough? Was it sufficient? And so we have been talking about these 3 questions and putting those actions in place in each and every classroom, in the lives of the students, and in the goals of the teachers. Everyday mathematics materials were flown in to make sure that they were here on time. They were used day 1, and that discussion has continued, and that level of rigor in elementary school for math is growing. MYP e-assessment will be taught this year to ensure that the curriculum is aligned to the expectations of the e-assessment, and a review of the MYP e-assessment and portfolio this year are part of this year's 3-year pilot. So this was an e-assessments, and the MYP portfolio was a pilot, and it was to last 3 years, and that ends this year, and we'll be looking at how we're going to progress with that process and that program forward on the basis of the data that we have for MYP. Next slide. So in the arts, athletics is strong, continue to work, and so we folded the athletic director into our senior leadership team meeting so that the communication is thorough and that we're communicating across these different very complex and fast-moving parts of our school. Arts are doing well, notably in theatrical arts, and concern over the amount of screen time is something that we've addressed through these surveys, which I'd like to address now. Now, I can go deep into this. There's actually quite a bit of data, but I'm actually going to, if we can move to the digital and technology comments, please. There we go. So parents expressed a number of concerns in that annual survey, and they asked the question and were wondering more about what's the balance between technology and traditional learning. And so that was a concern. Screen time and how much time students are spending on screen at home and in the evening. Digital citizenship and responsible use. How should our students use AI? And then some of the next steps that we were looking at. So we've had students, not yet, but parents take these surveys, and I'd like to share a little bit of that data. Just 2025 survey, number 1, phones. So we had 3 surveys. I'm only going to address phones, and I want to do this because it is a community response, and it's complex. And I really wanted to illustrate the complexity and how we're going to move forward with that to make sure that all of our voices are folded in to this effort. So what are some reasons that parents said we should have phones at school? Well, for emergency contact. If they're on the bus and there's an emergency, they can call their parents. Logistical coordination. Mom, come pick me up. The program has ended. Medical necessity. Some of our students want to keep up to date or keep up to date with their current conditions. And so that's an important reason. And then safe transit, that these phones are available when they're going home and that they can talk to their parents when they're in transit. So what are some reasons that parents said no phones? What are some reasons against? Well, it's a significant distraction. Phones actively disrupt the learning environment. They can reduce student focus and concentration on lessons, etc. There's also gaming, and that can pull students away from their learning. Social and emotional impact. Liking different things it can sometimes be destructive and distracting, and it's not necessary. Discipline, there's a discipline challenge. Some students, these many apps are designed to make you want to scroll. And these things are designed to do that, and the people that do this know this and have that intent, and because of that, it causes a significant amount of difficulty for students to pull away from that. So how do we help those students improve that discipline? And then unnecessary in a safe environment. It is true that mom and dad, if you ever needed to have to talk to your child and you called the school, it would take less than 3 minutes for you to be in direct contact with your child. And so as a result of that ease of contact, there's really no strong demand to have a phone in each child's pocket. Certainly, there's divisional differences. And so this is where it becomes a little more complicated. So phones in general, for that survey, parents generally appreciate a restrictive policy, and that they want the use of that time on the phones to be balanced, and they want the communication and digital citizenship to be part of our educational program. In terms of screen time, parents observed that it seemed significant in the evening, and that there should be a clear direction towards a reduction and balance and improved management of that, and teaching kids the ability to actually move into more traditional learning, like reading a real book. And then the use of artificial intelligence. Now, we've already addressed that with our acceptable use policy, and we've already worked with students on the use of AI. We've developed guidelines for our teachers and their use of AI. Nevertheless, parents generally tend to be cautiously optimistic, and the consensus is that AI is an inescapable tool, and that what we here need to do is to ensure that there's guardrails to protect our core academic development for that. So you can differentiate the way in which phones are used, and certainly parents in the elementary have very different perspectives as parents, say, in the secondary. And so this survey did resolve what parents think about, elementary parents think about phone use, and they generally tend to be more restrictive. Next slide. In middle school, it's opening it up a little bit more, where they need to learn how to use the phone as a tool. I'm sorry, you're ahead of me. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I had hidden these that I'm talking about now. Sorry about that. But I'll just mention that in high school, it's less restrictive. So what I find interesting, and the reason I mention this, just this one survey, is that there's no single answer on phone use here at school. And that in order to move forward, we need to engage all of the voices, specifically our teachers' voices for phone use, screen time, and AI, as well as our student voices. And so our next step are to ask them to help us with a survey and then a focus group to drill down into what it is that we think should be the next set of procedures and policies in our use for these various fast-moving and changing technologies. Moving on to the next part, I must have a slide of our strategic plan as part of any conversations with parents. This is an implementation of a year of board work last year, and so there are 7 components to our strategic plan. There are 3 board accelerators that have been spoken to this evening: sustainable financial planning, long-range facilities planning, and meaningful communication. There are 4 strategic directions for the academics and learning side of the school. The first one has to do with developing curriculum, a high-quality educational program. The second is to develop an expanded learner profile. These are character attributes that prepare our students for the future. The third is to develop and open up more opportunities for innovation, and that can take many different directions. And then last is to ensure improved, meaningful communications with our community. So there's an alignment, and we're highly focused on that. The important thing is, and there's 2 alignments. Number one, my goals, director goals, are directly aligned to those 4 strategic directions. So I am helping propel each one of those components with the various groups within the school that will make these come to life, both in the lives of our students, but also in our program, but also as they move forward and towards improving learning. So moving on to my goals, the goals are the same as the strategic directions. And some of these are actually a little bit more specific in terms of what that might look like. So standards selected, year-long standards, et cetera, year-end outcomes developed for all core subjects. That would be strategic direction 1. Strategic direction 2, universal skills. Strategic direction 3, opportunities for innovation. This could mean expanded current innovation center and curriculum, modified diploma implementation. Strategic direction 4, meaningful communication. Consolidate current digital assets at HIS and improve interoperability between key digital systems. Next slide. One of the key challenges with the complex range of strategic directions is that we keep these aligned with our triple accreditation. So it's no accident that our CIS planned strategic or developmental initiative is curriculum. Students and teachers in their class set out the standards, set out the assessments, and by doing so, as they do that, they actually complete and collect data for our CIS developmental initiative and fulfill the strategic direction number 1. So there is a direct vertical alignment to what teachers are doing in the classroom to improve student learning, and we're utilizing the CIS IB and MSA, Middle States Association accreditation, as a catalyst to propel this improved student learning. What is virtuous here is that this is not, the accreditation process is not a bureaucratic set of check boxes. We've been working closely with CIS to ensure that the work that we do here is directly related to meeting those challenge goals and improving student learning in the classroom. So it's our hope that this time next year, as we begin closing or getting ready for our week-long visit from CIS, MSA, and IB, that we can demonstrate all of these elements in the lives of your students as they learn content. So I'm very pleased to say that we're at a school where this alignment is made easy because the teachers are so committed to ensuring improved student learning. Next slide. As I move through these different components, I could speak at length for each particular one, but one of the ones that I wanted to speak to is our meaningful community engagement as it involves new digital assets here at school. So if we can go to the next slide there. Before I begin, what I want to do is make sure that I express a high level and a great deal of gratitude to Wayne Vogt, his leadership, his team, and in particular, Mrs. Angela Marquis as our back of the house integration specialist. And these slides were prepared by her as she taught us about the different kinds of assets that we have and the transitions that we're making. Now, this is not something that will directly impact your students right now. It will in a moment, but this is something that will make a significant difference in the manner in which you as parents interact with the school. Upon my arrival and upon Angela's arrival, and something that Wayne's been working on for a while, we have an amazing array of complex digital assets. For example, we have Sage Intacct. That is our new accounting system. We also have Asset Tiger, which was used for our computer inventory. We are a Google school, and so we have a Google Suite set of digital assets that our teachers use to develop curriculum and develop programs and to communicate, etc. Our library uses Destiny. We have LineWise, OpenApply, Schools Buddy, Seesaw, IXL, Papercut, Final Site, Active Directory, etc. And so this means that we have silos of data that may or may not be communicating with each other. And it's led to data that is out of date. And so this was a significant challenge that we faced, and it takes time and measuring once, twice, and 3 times before we're actually able to make a change, because doing so poorly means we lose data. And so we started with Sage Intacct. I personally had quite a number of high expectations for our next accounting system. It had to have 247 cloud utility. It had to have 247 support. We should be able to call somebody and talk to somebody if something's not right. We needed to have training built into online digital training so that as people come and go from the business office, they can always learn how to use that piece of software. And so that was a huge step up from where we were. It took us a year to identify it, and it took us, and Blessing Neobod's team in the business office, about half a year to do a parallel dual system process so as to ensure that all of our historical data transferred with high levels of integrity. That is now complete, and so we finally have a system that, from an accounting perspective, is now interoperable with other software assets like Schools Buddy. So this is a big deal because now you can pay online for certain things, and it feeds into our accounting system. It also allows us to have a highly accurate asset register, which helps us align our insurance and actually reduces costs. So there's just so many elements to this in the back of the house that made such a big difference, and I can't express enough thanks to Blessing and her team for having done a superb job in this transition. But that was a sea change for us. The next major piece was a centralized student information system. It turns out that when you put your address into our student information system, it would reside there, but then you might have to do it someplace else. And that means that that one place that you put your address or your phone number wasn't talking to these other systems. The moment you changed your phone number, it meant that now we have two different phone numbers and we don't know which one's accurate. And we had a proliferation and a degradation of our digital information quality. And so we identified that we needed to have a centralized system. And again, it took Wayne Vogt and his team and Angela about a year to identify which system had the highest level of interoperability, and we've since determined that that is PowerSchool. So PowerSchool can speak to OpenApply, ManageBack, Schools Buddy, Sage Intacct, our human resources assets, the others, and our library, among other things, especially our Google Workspace. And so we are now in the process of introducing PowerSchool as that central information system. Once again, this is a sea change in the way that we operate. And what it means to you, moms and dads, is that the moment you put information in PowerSchool, it now is pushed out into these other ones, and it's all up to date on a regular basis, on a 24-hour basis. So these link to other informations, and it removes any of these standalone spreadsheets that we've been operating from. We have a number of new systems that are coming online that you're going to experience in a school coming to you this year. PowerSchool is currently, we've done 3 days of training this week for all of the people that have to manage schedules, grade books, communication systems. They've all sat in long training to know how to operate the PowerSchool system. It will be central to the manner in which we work with your students' transcripts, and et cetera. And so that transfer of knowledge needs to be very thoughtful, and we've begun that training with the sense that we'd be implementing in the second half of the year. We have had two systems in the elementary previously, ManageBack and Seesaw. ManageBack was really designed for the IB program in the secondary, and so it didn't have the utility that we would have liked in the elementary schools and what the teachers there needed and what parents frankly needed. We had another program that would manage photographs and activities in school called Seesaw. We were able to combine ManageBack and Seesaw data into a new piece of software called Toddle. Now, currently the teachers in the elementary school are being trained on Toddle, and we're enlisting parents as Toddle champions to help parents transition over to Toddle. We hope that this is going to be a much more meaningful way to communicate with you and to ensure the integrity and quality of the data about your children's learning in both around the school and PowerSchool, but also specifically in Toddle. And yes, Toddle is interoperable with PowerSchool. So these are all of the alignment issues that we've been focused on, and I think it radically transforms the back of the house in terms of the quality and integrity of our programs. And finally, what I wanted to say was to speak more specifically to some of those integrations. Final Sight is our website. Follett's our library. All of these systems are now integrated. And so if you put information in PowerSchool, it's going to go to Toddle, and that information would be correct and up to date. Moving over to student parent portals, attendance tracking, applications, various calendars and schedules are there, communication through there, forms. So instead of looking for a form, there's going to be a panel of just forms that you can always go to. Child protection, we have different measures that we utilize to track both child protection concerns, but accurate schedules, attendance tracking, emergency contacts, health information, family ID numbers, parent custody, permission forms, students alerts, et cetera. And then last, school-wide use, accounting, it's interoperable with accounting, activities, communication, health, and elementary and secondary schools, school work, and then human resources and operations. These things can generate custom reports, and so we hope that we'll have sufficient dashboards to know where we are on the different components that are critical to the functioning of the school. And so, again, an incredible thank you to Wayne and his team, and especially Angela Marquis, who's managing these transitions to these much more refined systems. That's all that I have this evening, and I believe our next item for the agenda is to field any further questions. Yeah, so. Sorry. Okay. So, as we have received two questions from our online experience. Our online parents have posted online 2 questions. They both had to do with the cafeteria, and so to those questions, I'd say please reach out to me, and I can then direct that parent and or respond to those questions. But they're quite operational and quite specific to the cafeteria. And at this time, I'd like to field any questions in the audience, and if there's any questions online. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'd like to start by thanking the parents on the board. It's a tremendous responsibility, and I really appreciate the service you do for our community. We all benefit from it tremendously, and so thank you very much for the time. I know it's a lot. But my question is, on Angela's slide, you showed a 5%, I think, deficit and a 6% increase in costs, which I think is 11% total. What are we going to do to make up that deficit? I have my own organization. We have our own budget. Part of that budget goes to paying for tuition, so presumably it's going to be either increased tuition or we're going to cut somewhere. So my preference would be to increase tuition, but I don't know if you want to cut too much
I would say numerator, denominator, multiple streams of revenue on the numerator, and then. So I was asked to repeat the question. So the question is, on the basis of the information that Angela presented, there seems to be a decrease in revenue and an increase in costs, and that the question is, how would you address that? And you would prefer to see an increase in tuition rather than a loss of programming. The mandate from the board related to program is that we will protect core program. We would cut other places before we would ever incur any kind of potential loss of program. So that's the first mandate from the board. But I also thought it might be valuable to have Angela, if you'd like to respond to that as well. So.
Yes, so to your point, as we're looking at this upcoming year, next year, we are operating at a deficit. We have some breathing room right now with our reserves. It's not unlimited breathing room. And so the board is really focused on long-term financial sustainability. So tuition increases will likely be a lever given the information that we have today. We have made no decisions on it, but also financial discipline, which is something that we keep looking at. Looking at our numbers, where are we being inefficient? Where can we upgrade our campus that reduces our overall operating costs long-term, like the solar system? So that's really where our priorities are. But getting back to break even or a surplus is very much our goal. We anticipate being able to come back to the parents with an answer on tuition, likely around the March meeting is likely when we'll have it. Are there any other budget questions? Yes. So the question is that we said that we were using a lot of generator because of the PAC. So we had been utilizing the generator quite a bit previously. Fortunately, by investing in our solar system on the PAC, we have been able to reduce our overall generator costs. So we do want to get to some energy independence because that is much more sustainable long term. Okay. Thanks.
I'd add by saying that I believe we've run the generator one day this year, whereas last year it was, ZESA would load shed us, and then we'd go to the solar power system, but it was oftentimes insufficient to cover the entire school, and then the generator would kick on. And so now that doesn't happen anymore because of the new power station we have on the PAC. So that's been a considerable and valuable, sustainable decision for CapEx this year. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. I'm smiling because I can speak to this at length, and certainly the parents' input on that survey was incredibly valuable. The question was, what are really fundamentally, what are your next steps for phone use? And could you utilize pre-existing or best practices from other schools? And so I would love to show you what we've resolved already based on just the parent input. I think it'll be much more informed and broadened comprehensively by student and teacher input. And once we consolidate that data, we can then look to and query what kind of best practices. And what we've picked up immediately is that it's different based on the age of the students. In general, phone use in the elementary parents are overwhelmingly restrictive of use in the elementary. But then there's in middle and especially high school, a recognition that students need to learn how to use these phones in a manner that's constructive. So there's an extra parallel set of learning that needs to happen as students grow through the system to teach them about how, when they're being manipulated by phones, when they're being driven to click again or to swipe again. And these are the things that we've already emerged. And yes, there are some very specific practices, but what we've learned already is that it's not a yes or no. It might be a yes or no in the elementary, but it might be under certain circumstances in the middle years, and then it might be, here's how we're going to use it as a tool in the secondary. So these are still emergent. We're not making any final proclamations because we want to collect student and teacher data. But look for that in the spring. That's something that I feel is going to yield a valuable conversation within our community and a very thoughtful way forward. Yes? That's the next step. The question is, are you having discussions with the students themselves? So we've drawn information from parents first. The next step is to present groups of students or grade levels in the secondary, middle, and even upper elementary with very quick surveys, and then to have sit-down conversations with representative groups to deepen that knowledge and to get their perspectives and to record that and then consolidate that. And the same is true for teachers. As some teachers, again, it's not a yes or no. Some teachers say, I really rely on this application on this phone for this quiz so that students have the independent means to make study tools, et cetera. And so these are things that, and I'm not saying that's actually happening, but I speculate, but I have a sense that we're going to have a lot of different opinions, and then what we'll do is chart a way forward that frankly makes the most sense for improved student learning, which means there's likely a balance, but as we move up to the older students, where discipline is going to be something that they're going to need to learn in order to use these tools properly. So, any further questions? just one question to Wayne. Wayne, are there any questions online that have evolved? Okay, at this time there are none. If there's no further questions, I'd invite Fadzi Musurera to adjourn the meeting. So, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Greg. And thank you, everyone, for making time to come and join us in this AGM. We continue to value your support, continue supporting us. And once more, I would like to invite people that think they are called to serve onto this board. We are constantly looking for volunteers. So thank you so much.